How you doing? I'm so glad to see you. We're just moving right along. Tighten up my notes here a little bit. I feel like Bob Ross. You remember him? You know, a little funny story as I get together. I love Bob Ross. Every time I would find him, because they kept moving his program all over the place. But every time I found him, I knew it was like nap time. So I turned him on, and he doing his magic with his titanium white and burnt sienna and all these colors. And I'd wake up hours later and some infomercial would be on. I love Bob Ross. Yeah, that guy was magical. But it was so funny because, like, I don't know, I got to get out more or something. I don't keep up with current events, but I there's a people I got mixed up with drugs and alcohol, and that does something to your time sense of time. And Bob Ross and a lot of other people I'm just learning have died or have been dead for a while. I don't know if you feel that, like, man, I thought that woman was alive. She's been dead for decades. Yeah, you gotta love Bob Ross. This is day 364. I'm Thomas Nyback, 365 days toward racial change. And, got today and tomorrow. We're working through another news cycle. Another black man is killed by a white cop and all this stuff. When I first got in touch with Dr. Anderson's material, started watching his videos, I encourage you to do the same. He talks about making black people a protected class. A big part of his motivation is because he's tracked and he notices the rise of other groups around this issue of the economic condition of black folks. And the thing is, I got in touch with this material, about 3 or 4 years, apparently after he was really making a big strides and stuff like that. His energy has kind of tapered off. I'm not sure what he's doing now, but he was big into that because he wants black people to be a protected class of people. Much like the Native Americans they got their own nation, their own land. They have sovereign space within um, the United States of America. They have their own spaces and laws and things like that. And the United States is really hands off mostly. That is until and unless they find some valuable resources like uranium. We talked about the Navajo Nation a little while ago. Up in the Dakotas a few years back, they want to run pipelines uh, through the land and things like that. Which is now that's common for the United States globally as well. If you got resources that this nation values, um, then you be ready to negotiate, or the United States uh, may find ways to take it. Sad to say. But anyway, Dr. Anderson, he wants us to be a protected class. I think he's right, too, because this nation just does not quite work for black people. I don't care how many amendments we have, how many long conversations we have on the floor of the House and the Senate, any lip service from presidents. Yeah, President Trump, when he comes out, he's releasing some African American or black person. I'm not an African American. I'm a black American. If you need to put an adjective in front of the American, right? Um, then just my skin color is enough. I'm not connected with Africa beyond the color of my skin, right? I don't practice the culture, any arts, religion, anything from Africa. But a protected class, I think he's right, and it's important. It's a long stretch. It's up there with reparations, but um, America's just not a good fit for people with black skin. And that's, if you remember yesterday, I was talking about milk and how the individualism helps, is facilitated because the environment is the the community. The environment, the community is white. Therefore, when a white person, we can call it successful individualism, but it works because you're just adding a drop of white milk to a glass of white milk. Yeah, it's going to do very well. It's going to be supported well, look like an individual and all that. But it's in a white space, a white room. Black person comes into that space, then there's a shift. The environment changes and all kinds of stuff happens. There's resistance, um, cooperation, resistance. A lot of things happen. So, protected class, I think it would be very much appropriate for Black people to have. Today, we're going to talk about. I will just title this one "The Forrest Gump Syndrome." We're going to get into that in a minute. Let's talk about our resources. We don't want to, we got a good thing going, so we want to stay consistent with the resources. This may be your first time here at Racial Change, so you need to understand some of the resources we use that have informed our conversation over 300 plus days here. A Black History Reader: 101 Questions You Never Thought to Ask. This is by Dr. Claude Anderson. Black Labor, White Wealth, Search for Power and Economic Justice, and Dr. Anderson's National Plan to Empower Black America. Powernomics. Find Dr. Anderson at powernomics.com here on YouTube. Great guy, a lot of information. Behind me, you see the hashtag #US2Summit. You'll find Black women supporting each other, sharing resources, having community. Check out Black Enough, BLAGGENUF, kind of a Black Facebook experience. If you've got an entrepreneurial mind or desire, go see Dr. Boyce Watkins at the Black Business School, theblackbusinessschool.com. Check out Tyrone Gregory, self-employed tax guy. Easy to find on LinkedIn, Twitter. Find him hanging out over there. You let him know Tomlin's Nyback sent you. Oh, let's see. Got story time. If you go back through the history of this project, you'll see we've talked about this entire text. Oh, and if you can't find your flavor here on the World Wide Web, maybe you just had some time and you dropped in on us. Do what I did. Start your own project. See how far you can go. So today, I call this the Forrest Gump syndrome, and I'm using the illustration of the movie Forrest Gump. One day, Forrest Gump, right? Tom Hanks, he just gets up and starts running. And he's running and running, and he's just running across the country. He's running and running. And he gets it's probably a desert in maybe Utah, Arizona, somewhere. And he says, I'm tired. and he's been running for a long time. His beard has grown and all this stuff. And he says, "I'm tired," and he just starts walking home. And it makes me wonder, like we get wrapped up in American life so much, and we're just going and going for no reason. There's no purpose, and we really need something to shake us loose from the habit and step back, make an assessment of why we do what we do, where we're going. Is this what I want to do? And right, let's start asking ourselves some questions, right? I mean, and he even, if you remember the movie in this his running episode, he's even got a crowd following him, right? I mean, now their purpose is to be a part of this, running phenomenon, right? So they're just following suit, but the principal player, the originator, the architect of the activity is like, this makes no sense. Why I'm investing in this. I'm out in the middle of nowhere. I'm tired. I'm going home, right? And that's a good shift, pivot for the character. And I think it's something that we need to do here in America, on all levels, all peoples to some degree. Now, you may know where I'm going with this. This actually happened for us en masse, and we did it along with the rest of the global community with the coronavirus. Now, I was already kind of in a mode um, to work harder, to self determine, and all that because it's kind of easier to break out of those cycles and habits because the system just wasn't working for me. It wasn't. Uh, it wasn't taking me in the direction I wanted to go. It was always me wasting time with travel and all that. I got a good friend, and he watches these, but this is a perfect illustration, I think. I won't say his name, but he'll know I'm talking about him. Um, he's a good friend, and he wanted to change, and this certain the education environment was just not receiving him. He couldn't. He was at a an impasse. Couldn't get any further. Get tenures and stuff like that in higher education. So, he always had this love of the library. And I'm like, yeah, I guess. It's quiet. I was supportive, but it's what he wanted to do. He felt his passion was to hang out in the library, participate, work there, and stuff like that. Well, he landed that position, a position or whatever you get in a library. And I was at the library one day at the computers, and I turn around, and here he comes, boom, he's got this little cart of books, and he's going to reshelve some books. But the light on his face was like, I was like, so I got it. Like, that's, some self determination. It's realizing the vision. It's, participating in the system with the gifts. This is the gifts I'm bringing to the system. And his face was just lit up, just like an angel. And I was like, yeah, he's in the zone, right? That is what makes his life worth something. Yeah, at the time, who knows? Maybe it's not a big thing, big long thing. We go through different periods. I used to be a guitar player that had that same attitude. I hope I revive that again. But anyway, good friend at the library, and I was like, yeah, that's what. See, we got to get off. We're on this merry-go-round in life, you know, and it's so much, it's so detrimental and dangerous for a black person in the system because it's a whole different experience happening. There's more layers. It's not a one-to-one ratio with the individual and the system. When you're a black person, there's racism, stereotypes, resistance, and economics. All these things function against them in a black individual. It's all this resistance, right? So, like Forrest Gump, you got to eventually stop. Um, you know, the black child, in a lot of ways, it's all about keeping them distracted, keeping them active, and just going the next thing, without doing some inventory about who they are, what they want to be. None of that's encouraged. None of that introspection, right? If you've got some mental deficiencies, addictions, alcoholisms, things like that, depression, well, they got plenty of agencies to help compensate, drugs to help compensate for that, but it's only to get that individual functional enough so they can go back to work, go back to, when I wonder how often, more times than not, our depressions, our addictions, and things like that for Black people is a result of just not living the life they're supposed to live. Punching widgets. I mean, how can you be born with the goal to punch somebody else's widgets and make someone else rich? How can that be a logical goal for a person's? That's the slave mentality. That's the slave dynamic in America, to be born in the system as a node, a drone to gather, punch widgets, and enrich somebody else. That's not a person's not born to do that for someone else, to enrich someone else. You gotta be kidding me. We're born on this huge planet with plenty of resources and space, um, to find out, like, wow, let me go on the greatest exploration of all ever, and that's within. That's myself, and that's engaging the world in a way that's going to reflect exactly what my insides are telling me, right? Take some of your outdoors people who like to climb mountains, right? There's people, they're not just physically conquering vertical rock structures. No, it's a story going on. This whatever mountain that they're clawing up to get to the summit. Well, these are the same way that one surmounts difficulties in life. Economic resistances, education resistances, physical resistance, and obstacles. Well, that person, that mountain climber, is, yeah, we physically, it looks like I'm just climbing a rock, but they climb mountains in their experience, and it's about overcoming an obstacle that looks insurmountable. You know, that's what is that's more in line with the purpose of a person's life. If the mountain climber does have a job, well, the job serves that person's purpose. right? It's not a hobby to rock climb. That's my life goal, to find the biggest, baddest mountain. Job is just to get some revenue so I could eat and maintain equipment, right? That's a whole different thing, you know. But we are, and America is right. You know, the coronavirus. That's really nothing. Um, Plenty of people die of all kinds of other stuff. And, I know we got to be responsible and all that, but other diseases take plenty more people. We're going to reach 100,000 people dead of coronavirus. But what about uh, gun violence, everything that's rampant, other diseases that take people? Um, I mean, there's the debates out. I'm not an expert. Um, I just do what you can. But like, there are other diseases in the land where um, the disease of activity, just being so busy all the damn time, the disease of uh, being dependent on a job, you know, to think that most likely a white business owner has um, so many good intentions for me to be better than them, to excel, to use their company or space as a place to have some vertical movement in the system, so I can live in a house like they do and experience life with the privileges like that. Well, that just doesn't happen. It's very rare, right? It's not like Will Smith in the movie Pursuit of Happiness, where he goes through all kinds of changes. He's homeless with his son and all this stuff, and he shows up to the biggest interview of his life, covered in paint, and he's in jeans, and, you know, and everybody, all the other applicants are well dressed, white, and ready for the interview, you know. But in that particular movie, this outlier incident, Will Smith lands the job with the firm, and boom, his life explodes for the good. You know, that's an extreme exception, right? That movie. Um, in general, people are just scrambling. You know, what they want to do is, you know, live their lives. You know, I saw my mother, years of growing up. It's like, you know, she had a taste for art and crafts and things like that. But they were always little hobbies. You make a little money on the side, and you do little stuff. But you know, the heavy lifting, you had to be chained to a desk 8 hours a day and stuff. You know, fortunately, she had a car and lived the working and living were very close. You know, my dad saw him. He had to work, and he worked and worked two jobs and running around and stuff. You know, he liked to cook. He loved food, but he was always doing it for somebody else. You know, at a farmer's market, you ain't gonna excel too far at a farmer's market. You know, but mom and dad are sacrificing for kids, and that was what they had. You know, but what I'm saying for everybody, you know, especially black folks, have to think like, what am I doing? Like even crime. Why am I messing around with drugs? Why am I messing around with guns? Do you ever ask yourself, why am I doing this? What is the what law is telling me that I have to be this way, that I have to do this. I've never ran into one. I know we have conditioning and we have the nature of various communities, but there's nothing written down that says I am compelled, I am forced, manipulated to expend my strength, my interest in this way, to throw it all into the wind, to risk everything um, for to benefit someone else, because someone else is benefiting um, from our crime, our dysfunction. That was another big thing that really opened my eyes when I started listening to Dr. Anderson's, because he had put his finger on so many points. The dysfunction of America. Why do we? Why are black people like in this dysfunctional role where it's easy to kill a black man. It's easy to be white and see be treat the black man as expendable. And just have my knee on his neck and he's losing air. This black guy, it's all right. Or a black guy jogging through a neighborhood where where I'm white and I feel like, I don't want him there. I feel like he's doing criminal stuff. He's running from something. Let's take him out. It's all right. He's a black guy, you know. But what, have black people ever stopped to say like, why am I doing this? Why am I being uppity and disrupting community and trying to cause chaos in a situation? Why am I doing that? I've never read it. I hear it maybe in the music, in the community, stuff like that. But where is the law that says I must be thus and so, be incarcerated, aim my life at being totally subjected as our slave ancestors were back in the 16, 17, 1800s, late 1500s. Long time of that. I mean, I understand, I perfectly understand why black people are living out ancestral dysfunctions and all that. I get that. But what makes us fall into traps, live in all these ways that benefit everybody else but us? We don't benefit from uh, drug use, drug sales, alcohol indulgence. Like we're just such a group, so bent on expending ourselves and making ourselves vulnerable out here. Have you ever asked yourselves, why am I doing this? You know, I went through a period. I think it's broken now. I think the spell is broken. But I was like, you go through that point where credit comes easy. You're still young in the system, and you got plenty of predatory loans out there and stuff, and all kinds of opportunities to get caught up. And financially, I'd be like, oh no, I got out of the financial entanglements finally, I'm free. And then I go and I just throw a wrench in the system. Boom! And finally, I start saying, man, okay, I know I'm doing this, but why am I doing this? Well, what's the metaphysical roots to destroying my life or being in the hands of a group of people that really aren't interested in my success. It's amazing, something to think about, you know. Let me wrap this up. I'm about out of time here on this penultimate uh, offering today. I'm thankful for the virus. You know, the whole world got a pause, and it's neat to watch the system scramble to cover itself back up and to dispense illusion again and get people regimented again to serve it, right? I, the spell was broken for me before the virus, but the virus hit en masse. And little by little, I hear the questions. I see the attitudes change, and the questions are being asked. Why am I doing this? Why am I enriching you? I can't do it anymore. Fortunately for me, I'm burnt out. I can't enrich others anymore. That just doesn't make sense. I'm through. Can't do it anymore. I'm burnt out. The men I can't prop up people who are lesser than me anymore. I just don't have the energy for it. I can, and I'm ready to have the courage to be frank about it too. I'm Tomlin's Nyback. That's day 364 out of the way. 365 days toward racial change. We got one more to go. Are you still with me? I'll see you soon. Bye bye.